Yeah, well, what did you think about her personally? Like, I mean, in terms of her personality or her demeanor or how she worked with people or how, you know, anything about her that was your personal
Well,
um, impression from her, about her?
I resonated with her right away, not even before I had met her physically, because I met her during
Right.
sessions on Skype. And what I liked about her right away, because I like this about people in general, is she was very direct, and she didn't dance around, and she didn't play the, you know, the holy spiritual teacher game. Because don't forget, I had been through all that. I said, enough. Let's get out of here with this. You know, with everybody's nice and friendly, and everything's wonderful, but nobody's getting anywhere. You know, everybody's so she came in. She said, "Look, I'm not going to fool around. I'm going to do it." I said, "Oh, all right. Listen, you're preaching to the choir," because she doesn't fool around. She's direct. I said, that's what I like. I like that in her, but I like it in people in general. I cannot stand any kind of equivocation or ambivalence or dancing around. So she came in and she was like, you know, like a laser beam, to me, which was very refreshing, because I like that. I said, you know, it's like, come on, we don't
At the
want
same time, so she's no BS. She's very direct, but she's also very caring, very her own way, very gentle, very loving and compassionate.
there was that component too, and that I saw that too. Behind that, like, we're not going to fool
Yeah,
around. It was like the, you know, the Kali Ma, you know, we'll slice off your head, but we love you. You're our children, but we, you know, but we don't want you to wake up. So in other words, behind that, you know, kind of like, I'm not going to fool around with these people or you or anybody, but there was this loving concern, because she would stay up at night. She said, look, you go to sleep. I'm going to work on you when you sleep. When you sleep, so she'd be up at night. I would be sleeping, and she said, I'm going to do some inner work or whatever. And you know, on her own dime, you know, at her own expense.
yeah, you weren't paying her for that, and guess what? I've never done that for anybody.
What's
I've
that?
never done that for anybody.
I wouldn't. If I had to stay up
But
at night.
but
Listen,
she does that routinely for people. There was one guy that went through a cancer treatment, couldn't pay her anything. She
I
had
know,
a
because he's
bunch
a
of
friend.
sessions
He's a
with
friend.
her.
Who you're
With
talking
that,
about? He's a friend of mine, and I remember when he's going through that, and because I said, "Is she charging you for this?" She said no, and I said, because she was doing a lot of that. Because yeah, so that shows the compassion and the love element, you know, behind the. I like to use the word fierce, because that's when I think of Kali Ma, Mother Kali. There's a fierceness there. We're not gonna stand for this bullshit, you know, this ignorance, and I like that, because don't forget, you know, that's what you need to get over the hump a lot of times. And I mean, everybody comes to it differently, so there's not, you know, one rule for everybody. But like, I like that. So she was doing, yeah, all this work, and she does it. I know, and that wasn't only this person we're talking about.
no,
Other people too.
other people do, and nobody's going to know about it. You know, she's actually really humble. I mean, you know, she comes across, I think, because she's an Enneagram 8, very forcefully, and people pick up on that. But in fact, who she really is I mean, you know, she's a 45-year-old Jewish mother of 3 teenagers, and her motherliness, or being a mother, really comes across as a spiritual teacher, because basically these are her kids in a way. And so if one of her kids is sick, then she'll, you know, and that's amazing to me, because frankly, I don't have that in me. I don't have that gene, whatever that is.
Well,
I
I don't
mean,
either. You know, and that's another thing I noticed. I said, yeah, so that explains it, because she is that mother, physically and spiritually. In other words, whereas I'm with you, I don't have that gene. I never had the gene.
no, exactly.
That to me is music, because I can't stand that. You know, oh, because I played the you know, oh, devoted disciple for too long, and she wasn't going to, you know, go anywhere near that. She wasn't a disciple; she was a teacher. So
Yeah, and another thing that you probably notice is she really doesn't like, you know, the whole guru devotee thing. I mean, she really, anytime she sees that happening with people, she tries to squash it, and you know, and that I really like about her.
That's another thing that really impressed me too, was just that, because I had been through that whole guru disciple, devotee thing for so long in different connections, that I wasn't about to play that game anymore.
Well, you and your wife, without naming any names, you and your wife had been locked into we can say it's a cult, right? Because we're not going to say who it was.
Right. Yeah, it was definitely a cult.
Unless you want to. Okay, but it was a cult for a number of years.
Yeah. It was. We were with the Sri Chinmoy back.
Oh, okay. All right.
In the 70s. Well, my wife came later. I'm a little older than she is, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right.
Early generation, but we both belonged to that same cult. So we did the the guru disciple thing. So she had totally had it with that, because she left. That's how I met her, actually. I left. So once I got out of that, I said, no more of that. I want to do something that doesn't involve, slavish devotion. So anyway, so Ananda was like, none of this stuff. I don't have, look, I don't have disciples. I don't have devotees, that stuff. So I said, because I can't play that game anymore. I did that.
Besides which, this isn't about some long-term contract. I mean, this is about, you're just going to play student for a while because that's what you think you are. And if we're going to finish you in a year or less, and in your case, it took what, 6 months?
It was about 6, yeah, I would say 6 months.
And you were seasoned. I mean, you're older, which helps with the stability and the work through a bunch of stuff, a bunch of shit. You worked through it already. And then you've done all of that spiritual work, all that sadhana. So, I mean, you were ready. You were ready.
Yeah, I was ready, but as we said earlier, I was ready, but I couldn't get over the hump for some reason, and we both agreed that, I was right at the edge, but I couldn't get over the hump for whatever, but otherwise I felt ready. Because I was thinking too, because even though I kind of poo-poo the devotional aspect of the guru-disciple relationship, even though I know it's valid, there's validity there, I still felt that, I couldn't do it alone. I needed a guru of some kind. In fact, I said to you jokingly, I remember this, because when you first introduced me to her via Skype during one of those sessions, I said to you jokingly, I found my guru, because I knew there was somebody that had to put me over. I wasn't going to have a spontaneous thing. I just felt it, and that was right. But she had the spontaneous awakening, which was something, that I was very unfamiliar with, but I knew it happened in certain cases, like Ramana Maharshi and other cases. But I think most of the time you need somebody to, to kick you in the ass.
And that's one of the things that makes her different, and it works for her and against her, because it happened naturally and spontaneously for her. She doesn't have a lot of the concepts and constructs and long history of all this stuff, seeking in all these different ways like I do. And instead for her, it's like, boom, now, for her, that's how it was for her. Boom, so that's her relationship to awakening. It's like I don't know, a sunrise or a sunset. I mean, it's something that happens, and you can't miss it, because she just got it out of the box. And so she's just going directly for the experience itself. She doesn't care about all those labels and concepts. They didn't help her. She never had to go there. So I wanted to say that the closest thing I've been able to come up with, I'm going to transition now, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
The closest thing I've been able to come up with, I came up with this knowing we were going to talk. So here she is. She's this beautiful 45-year-old Jewish mother with 3 teenagers that are almost 17. They're very close to 17. And it's as if she was taken over by a famous old Japanese Zen master. So it's like she's this 45-year-old Jewish mother, and she has become sees overnight, basically, well, not overnight, but after the awakening, and then now stepping into this role, she's a full-blown Zen master. But coming through the beautiful 45-year-old Jewish mother, which nobody knows what to make of that.
I didn't know what to make of it either, because when she told me, and by the way, a very good-looking kid, she showed me a picture me and my wife showed us pictures. I said,
Yeah, they are.
yeah, how do you, yeah, this didn't stack up with my pictures either, you know, of a fully enlightened spiritual teacher who can deliver the goods, not just the spirit, not just an enlightened person who can't deliver the goods to other people, but yet she's got the 3 kids, the whole thing, the husband, the you know, the situation, ex-husband, right? And so that's an amazing piece of the story, and that's an important piece of the story. Yeah, how you say the Zen master the spirit of the Zen master comes through this, you know, kind of ordinary situation. You know?
I actually think she was, and I mean that. I really think she was. You know, in terms of reincarnation, was a well-known historical Zen master man in Japan, and she came into this life, and so it's like she almost doesn't understand why people don't listen to her the way they used to in Japan. You know, because you know you can tell she has the authority. She's the natural leader. You know, she talks with knowledge, with conviction and clarity. But it's this juxtaposition of 2 things that really haven't been together before. Maybe there's been a few, you know, Jewish mothers who became spiritual teachers. I'm sure there has been, but this combination of the you know, a young Jewish woman with the mother with the Zen master thing is new. She's the real deal. She's totally the real deal. She loves Charlotte Joko Beck, who was a Zen master. She's passed on, but she's written several books, and she didn't know about her, and I showed her the books, and she gobbled them up and said, "This is it. This is me." You know, so if you want to understand where, you know, Ananda's coming from, you can read Charlotte Joko Beck, because that's really what she's all about. You know. Okay, yeah. So she has this real sense of authority. I think, you know, it's like she's born for 2 things. She was born to have those kids. She's born to do this, to be a you know, a non-duality Zen master type teacher. So she's like really powerful, but at the same time she's still really feminine, which impresses me. You know,
very feminine. I mean, very feminine. Yeah.
She loves getting her nails done. She takes good care of herself. She looks beautiful. She's very feminine, and yet she's really forceful at the same time in a wonderful way. With this, the love is powering it, you know, behind the scenes. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we talked. I guess we didn't. Yeah, we haven't talked about it yet. But there's a kind of reverse prejudice that kind of happens, because at least you and I think she's very beautiful. Absolutely. And you know, beautiful women in our culture kind of get pissed, like, okay, you're beautiful. You couldn't possibly be an astrophysicist or be a spiritual teacher. How could you be all of that, you know?
Exactly.
And I think that happens with her.
I think that's a problem, because people look at it and say, you know, speaking of Charlotte Joko Beck or other women spiritual teachers, they they're Buddhist nuns. They got their head shaved. They look like you know, Buddhists or whatever the tradition they're coming from. Whereas Ananda doesn't look like that. She's a beautiful woman. It's like, how can, you know, I can understand the resistance there on the part of somebody who might be relatively inexperienced, and not being able to see through the, you know, through the appearance, and say, what? She doesn't look like Charlotte Joko Beck. She doesn't look like, you know, what's her name? The other one. There's another. But, you know.
The children.
Who?
Oh, children.
Yeah. And also, I'm thinking, there's another one who got her head shaved. Oh, Joan Halifax. She got her head shaved, and she did the whole Buddhist nun thing. Yeah, well, that's more convincing, you know, to the mind. It's like, oh, that makes sense. But a beautiful woman, oh, she got beautiful nails, beautiful hair, beautiful face. You know, it's like, how can she be a Zen master type thing? So, yeah.
Well, she's been accused of being materialistic. You know, she's been accused of.
Oh, that's right. If you're so spiritual, how come you going to the you know, getting massages and getting your nail? Yeah.
You must not be spiritual then, which of course, when you say it sounds ridiculous, but yet that's what people are thinking.
But that's what they're thinking, and that's part of the, and we've had this, not you and I, but I mean, we all have had these discussions many, many times about, oh, what spirit, if you're spiritual, you know, you have to live this austere life, you know, renunciation, you know, which is garbage. But so there is that thread there. So if somebody's driving around in a nice car, living in a nice home, how can they be a spiritual teacher?
Yeah, it's hard for most people because most spiritual seekers, not all of them, but most of them have kind of taken a path of minimal living. You know, they're usually not wealthy and not, you know, big successes in the world.
That's true.
And they're kind of taking the spiritual seeking as a default. You know, kind of fallen into it. They don't really understand how could somebody have both or be both. You know, and nor does our society provide very many examples of that either.
No.
Okay, well, let me just look at my notes here. So yeah, I mean, so why is she so effective? I mean, I think it's because, well, first of all, being an Enneagram 8, there aren't that many spiritual teachers who are 8s.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, the Garyji, you know, was an 8. But I would be, and then the famous psychologist Fritz Perls was an 8. And you know, they were both very confrontative and challenging. They didn't mind putting people, putting fire into their ass and making them uncomfortable, and basically to, you know, get the real person to come out so that they weren't hiding behind their spiritual robes. And so she's the same that way, that she has a talent. She asks questions that people I don't ever ask. I mean, she will go down the rabbit hole with them into their personal life, their private life, whatever's going on, to really expose the real stuff. You know, she doesn't let them get away, you know, with anything. So yeah, she's an empath, she's psychic, she's intuitive. I mean, we've talked about her being caring and compassionate. And she made a statement recently to me, and she said, you know what, I could do this without RASA. And yeah, Ananda said this to me, and I said to her, I think you could. Wow. In other words, she has an energy that she's bringing. She has a lot of energy that she brings to sessions, so that people actually feel they're getting like Shaktipat or energy, something while they're talking to her, you know, like before the RASA. And I think whatever she has as this natural gift, which is she has in much greater abundance than I have. She actually, with this force that she has, it's not just being aggressive or being confrontative. It's an actual force that she was born with, I think, maybe from being a Zen master, before, I don't know. But it's in her, and when she talks to people, she actually is doing something with them, somehow working on them. Even though you're hearing the words, she's actually working on them. And then she concludes by doing RASA. So the RASA helps. I'm sure she agrees the RASA helps. She's told me that too. But you know, what she's bringing is, see, I'm just basically doing talking, and you know, I'm attuned and I'm talking, but I need that RASA speed people up, because I used to be a spiritual teacher just talking, and frankly, not that much happened. But with her, she's got an X factor that's just built into her energy, the way she communicates with students.
That's interesting, because I didn't know that. I always associate, because that was my experience, that was, RASA was the thing, because as you say, I've been with a number of spiritual teachers, and as you say, they say all the right things. You know, we all know the theory, but they haven't been able to deliver. So that's an interesting aspect, which I had not been aware of, actually.
Well, I mean, I think it worked with you, and I think definitely the RASA helped, but I think kind of, you know, that experience with her, of you really like her energy and her directness. I mean, I really think in a certain way she like gets into your bones. I mean, she really gets into you with that. It's not just a verbal confrontation. It's a welcome thing, though. I'm not saying she's invasive in a negative way, but it just, she has this power, this X factor. so that she could actually have almost the same results, maybe without the RAS at all.
You know, but as you're saying that, I'm saying, well, you know what, that does make sense, because, you know, I'm thinking it's all about the RASA, but maybe there are other things going on that, you know, not at the conscious level. I could see now that you're pointing it out. It kind of makes sense that she, yeah, that she.
Well, like the difference between you working with me and working with her, you know, like, you know, there was a difference for you.
Yeah, there was a difference.
And she brings this intensity, you know, this total intensity to it.
It's very intense. I like.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, she's very powerful naturally powerful at transforming people and transforming their lives. I mean, and I don't even know how she does it, but she does it. She doesn't know, she's just born with it. So let's see, anything else that we talked about, how very few, if any, spiritual teachers can do what she does, the way she does it, and be as effective as her, and also as entertaining and fun as her, because she's a lot of fun. You know.
Thing is, we found out, or as I found out in Woodstock when we were hanging out and going to the drum circle and all that stuff that's going on in Woodstock, she's a lot of fun, and she, you know, she just like pitches right in, digs right in, and is wherever, you know, we were at the place we went to eat and shoot pool and stuff like that. So yeah, she's like a regular person, but she jumps right in and has fun, and you know, that's very important.
Yeah. No, she is. She's all about, you know, being an ordinary person, being a regular person. And she's not interested in just getting you to your awakening. She wants your awakening to really work for you and work in your life, and forget all about enlightenment and really start living, you know, which I know has been the case for you.
That's what makes her unique and different. That's a good point. It's not about, oh, it's all about enlightenment, it's all about this. Yeah, there is that, obviously, get to a point where you realize, you know, what's what, but then, you know, then it's about from living from there, and not just, you know, holding on to, oh, enlightenment or whatever, you know, hanging out in the absolute or whatever. It's about living ordinary, daily, moment to moment life with cats and dogs and what, you know, whatever.
Yeah, and for her, it's not done even after they go to 1,000. I mean, you know, we'll talk, and she'll talk about students, and she'll say, you know, she's concerned, again, it's kind of that motherly thing. She's concerned, well, they're not, you know, they're holding on to all these spiritual concepts and stuff. And she doesn't like that. She wants to engage them and confront them and break them free of that. And I'm kind of like, oh, they'll get it sooner or later, you know, move on to the next paying client. You know?
No, that's another thing that impressed me about her, was that, you know, after, you know, she said, forget about all this stuff now. Oh, you used it, or it served you to get to the place, whatever. Now, forget all that stuff. You don't need it anymore. It's like, you know, you took the ferry across the river. Now you don't need the ferry boat anymore. Now you
don't carry the boat around.
You don't go lugging the boat. You know, drop it. So that's what I like too, because I see it in the spiritual world, the community. You know, hanging on to this notion of spirituality, and what, you know, it's like, drop
I'm
it.
enlightened. You know, all that.
Drop it already. So that's I think that's one of her strongest points, actually. Now that you mention these things, it's like, you know, she'll say, okay, now drop it. Just, you know, live a full human life. Be fully human. Don't worry about you know, whatever.
That's a real Zen teaching.
Yeah.
You know, if we had to put any one tradition about who would be saying that, it would be Zen. So that's part of her Zen masterhood, I think.
And even though, yeah, let me just say that's another thing that's probably coming through about her, because even though I spent a little time with the Tibetan Buddhists, really intellectually and emotionally, I've always felt a lot closer to the Zen Buddhist than the Tibetan Buddhist, by a long shot. And so that Zen thing really appeals to me. So maybe I picked that up on you know, unconscious level too, that she was coming from that place of pure, you know, pure non-conceptual, you know, no stuff, no trinkets, just, the pure non-dual teaching.
But what she has been doing for many, many years is just constantly studying all kinds of spiritual teachings, non-duality. She spent 10 years studying non-duality, basically nonstop, Kabbalah nonstop. And now she's studying other things having to do with the origin of religion and what's really true about religion and what's true about spirituality. And I don't know, some other things that we'll be talking about together in the future. So she's always studying, always learning. She's teaching me all this new stuff. And, people don't realize what a student she is, what a reader she is, also, on YouTube. She's constantly researching. So she just doesn't come across as an egghead or as a nerd or an intellectual like I do. Doesn't come across as an intellectual, but I've never known anybody else who was such a student of knowledge as her, besides myself and maybe you, but she really, so her personality belies the fact that she's actually really a nerd and an intellect. She actually has glasses, but she doesn't wear
them. Yeah, now that's something that's new to me. I didn't know that about her because she's never spoken about, her research, except for, I knew about the Kabbalah background because she's mentioned that quite a bit. But as far as her original research into the, origins of religion or something, no, I didn't know that. I didn't see her as a scholar, frankly.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what's interesting about scholars. Scholars can get and that's what's different about her. See, she's not, would I say she's a scholar? I'm not sure I would. I would say she's very knowledgeable and she does a lot of research, but scholars in general tend to be very interested in documenting and she's not like that. See, because she's an 8, she's not a 5 like me. She's not accumulating and annotating the knowledge. She's just gobbling it up and then processing it, extracting the essence and moving on in case that might help her teach somebody. But so it always comes back to being practical.
Practical, yeah. I use this word scholar in a very loose way. No, it's
right.
Being more practical than anything.
But you're right. In that sense, in a loose sense, she is a scholar. Yes, absolutely. She's dedicated to finishing people. So and I don't know anybody else like that.
No, that was very impressive because not only with me, but with other people that we've mentioned before, she's gonna hang into the end. She says, you're gonna get this. I'm gonna make sure. So that's good. And that gave me, reassurance. Like, I really felt that she knew what she was talking about.
Well, and it's true. And she knows how to do it. She really does. And she keeps getting better too. So she's a natural born leader for both men and women. She's especially good as a leader for women and for female empowerment. To me, she's the perfect, for me personally, I see her as a perfect role model for women because she's a real mother. She really cares about her kids. She goes through all of that stuff, which amazes me because I couldn't do that, I don't think, for anybody. What way she extends herself and stays open and loving and available. And she's beautiful and takes care of herself and she's feminine, but she's powerful. She's a leader. She's a master and she just carries it naturally. It's all natural for her. So to me, she's a great role model for women and men, but especially women, just imagine if the world was filled with women like her.
Wait, what's that?
Yeah, just imagine if the world was filled with a bunch of Ananda Devi type women, we'd be like, it would be a different world and women would not have trouble with power anymore.
No more.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk about some other stuff now about family and so on. Because I think we're kind of coming near the end of this. Just some points from my notes that I wanted to touch on. She's had to deal with just a huge number of challenges in order to join me in teaching non-duality and helping people awaken and doing the one-on-one, doing the satsangs with me. Her husband, when she said she wanted a divorce, he just moved out of the house. So she started working with me. So she immediately goes from mother to making a living, making a decent living, like overnight. Like, who does that? You know, but like, she's very heroic. She's very courageous. She's really amazing that way. She's a true 8. I mean, she's fearless. So anyway, so as a result of her decision to work with me and be a spiritual teacher, non-duality teacher, her family basically wants nothing to do with her.
Wow. I know it was rough. I knew she was having, I didn't know it was this rough. This is so intense. It's so amazing. It's a wonder how she can juggle all this stuff. It would be too much.
It would have been too much for most people.
For me, it would be too much because just the family thing alone is overwhelming.
You're a good mom, but you're just a mom, you know, and all that stuff. So she's, I mean, just imagine, I mean, but she was always comfortable, like, and I don't know, at some, Jewish, bar mitzvah or whatever, she'd give a talk, or a wedding, she'd give a talk. Very comfortable talking to a large group of people. Nobody thinks anything of it. You and I both know that most people are not comfortable talking to a large group of people. And so she gets no credit for that. She gets no credit for being the student and the scholar. She gets no credit for having studied the Kabbalah. She gets no credit. She used to challenge the rabbis. Like when she was a little girl, and up until the point she stopped having anything to do with rabbis, she would challenge them, ask them tons of questions.
Wow.
So why this? Why that? Well, and they'd say, well, this is the way it is. She go, what do you mean this is the way it is? Why should I believe this? So it goes on and on. So anyway, so that's what she's gone through in order to do this.
Amazing.
And yeah, people don't know this, that how much trouble she's gone through.
And I know more than most people, right? But I didn't know it was to this extent.
Yeah, well, they basically don't want anything to do with her because of her choice. What we think is they think that I basically, as a guru, seduced her into my cult.
Yeah, I could see how that.
Again, once you start thinking that way, then you see now she doesn't want anything to do with the family, so they're thinking is either the influence of the guru, meaning me, right, where none of that is true.
No, it's not. I know. I know enough to know that that's not true, because
she's her own person.
I was going to say that was the number one.
She doesn't take shit from anybody, and she really only listens to somebody if she really wants to. As soon as we met, it was like we just knew something about each other, like the first minute. And I told her she could teach, which I never tell anybody the first time. I might tell them eventually, but not the first time. And I started talking about twin flames for no reason. I don't know why. I started talking about twin flames the same day. I just heard about twin flames a week before. And we were sitting on a park bench in that area, in that Alpine Village locality. It's a beautiful area. And we're looking at the sky, and I swear, we were sitting there, and I could go on and on, but we were sitting there about, what we talked about, but we're sitting there and I'm looking at the sky in front of us, and I swear there was this ripple, like through time and space right in front of us. And I've heard the expression that like timelines can merge or shift or something like that, timelines, yeah, when you meet somebody. That's what I think happened. All of a sudden we had these two separate timelines, two different lives. And then our timelines fused together so that we were going to do this together. And I thought it's like I saw that happen in front of us in the space, and like 50 feet up in the air there, like these ripples in space. Wow. So anyway, then things just took off after that. And so a few weeks later, she just says to her husband, dude, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I want a divorce. He moves out immediately, like next day, and everything starts rolling. And then, eventually it just got to this point where it is now, once she got very, very serious about this, doing this work. Other reasons that I love her and like her is that I have consistently the highest level of conversation with her than any other human being. I've always felt I had to kind of dummy down my conversation with almost everybody, or I'd have a short period of time where it'd be awesome, but then it would kind of go flat again. With her, we just go, go, go. I feel I'm at the top level of communication I'm capable of, and she's right there with me. You know, I've never had that experience with anyone. See what else? I just love how animated she is, how expressive she is. She's, you know, she's just fun to watch.
I love that too about her. She's animated. She's expressive. She's not, you know.
She's alive.
Yeah, that comes across. This aliveness. This is one of her main, you know, most impressive qualities to me. That was always. She struck me right away. As soon as she landed in Woodstock, when I first met her, I said, "Wow, you know, I knew her through the video, through the Skype, but there was just this alive. Maybe that's what you were talking about before. How she this transforming power. There's an aliveness there that just, you know, pops out at you. It's like, whoa, who's this? You know, who's this person?
Yeah, that's part of it. That's one way it's being expressed, I think. Yeah.
It's good.
She has the power to make things happen. She just has it. It's part of who she is. She makes waves. She makes things happen. Good. And it could be, you know, could be a good thing, but it's not always a good thing. I've seen her make things happen that were not good because she was in a bad place, in a negative place, and she manifested something negative. So, you know, a lot of us, like me, I roll around and, you know, I'm not really making that much happen unless I decide to really commit to something. I don't walk around and make waves, and the other boats don't start pitching and yawing because I walk by. But with her, she walks by and the boats start moving. You know, she just creates waves automatically. So she's very powerful, and she really makes things happen, really manifests things. And another thing, she's never boring. Never, ever boring.
That's another thing.
And that's true of you, though, too, Garyji. You're not boring ever either. And she's super sexy. I mean, she's not just beautiful, she's sexy.
I can say that because I'm an old man.
Yeah.
No, very sexy. That's good. And that's good, too, because, you know, again, because you know, these other women teachers, like, you know, they're nice, they're great. Tony Packer and Charlotte Oka and, you know, all these teachers, they're not sexy. They're great. They're teachers. You know, they're wonderful. They have the line down and say beautiful things, but they're not sexy. So, you know, there's something to be said for being sexy. I like that.
Well, I think it represents that whole thing about, you know, Jesus said, I come here to give you life and life more abundant.
Abundant. No, that's right. And that's what you get. You know, you don't get any sense of dissipation there. You get this aliveness. You don't get any sense of like washed out, like, you know, been there, done that. No, there's an aliveness. That's the abundance. I like that.
And then just in general, Ananda is mind-blowing. She's just a mind-blowing person. I mean, you know, I never know what to expect with her. And I've had to learn to be so much more flexible. And then a few other things. There's this thing called human design, which I only learned about a year ago, which is kind of a form of astrology, but it's very original. Anyway,
I've had it done, so I'm a little, but not very familiar with it. I had my human design thing done.
Yeah. So the human design has individual charts, but you can also combine charts, and then see what you see. Well, they have a way where you combine charts and you look to see how many defined and how many undefined centers are left after you combine them. Okay, and I'm not even going to explain what that means because I don't even know. But if you have there's 9 centers. If you have 9 defined centers, so basically you're filling each other's holes. So I'm undefined, you're defined, we get together, now we have a defined thing, right? Well, with us, there's 9 possibilities. All 9 are defined. 9 so it's 9 and 0, and they have an expression, 9 and 0, nowhere to go. In other words, you found them, you found it, you found the one. You found your soulmate, your twin flame, whatever. And I was looking for, I've had a consciousness even as a teenager that I was looking for a certain woman. I was looking for her. There was one woman, my soulmate or twin flame, that I was looking for. And I had given up basically was the reason I was getting divorced from Linda, because I knew she wasn't it. And I just kind of given up. You know, I have been looking for her my whole life, basically, from when I was a teenager. So yeah, so what that leads to is a feeling of completeness when you're together. I feel totally completed. I feel every part of me is fulfilled. Now, both of us already feel whole and complete in ourselves. We're happy being alone. We don't really need anybody. We didn't need a relationship to complete us. So what we're talking about is this, you know, twin flame thing, or whatever you want to call it, soulmate thing, where being together, it's just this complete hookup, which I guess is what they're talking about with the romantic ideal, the romantic dream relationship. Only difference is a twin flame relationship. You come together not just for yourselves or for romance or something. You come together to help the planet and raise consciousness. You know, so and so it can be very challenging. You know, like what she's gone through, and challenging because we haven't been able to live together yet, and so on and so forth. Twin flame, yes. You know, it is very special as a connection, but it also has a lot of challenges and responsibilities. And neither of us has had an experience like this with anyone before, and it's just always there. We might fight, you know, we might have kind of a mini falling out, but basically it's always there. We do fight, by the way. You know, we're both fighters. We both have tempers.
No, and that's another thing I appreciated. Neither one of you pulled any punches, like when you're here in Woodstock, and also in general. And I like that. I don't, you know, it's like what you see is what you get. And I love that about Ananda. She doesn't pull punches. And I love people like that. You know, doesn't try to gloss over anything, you know, keep you, you know, just sit there and keep you, bottle it up. No, it's like, it's going to come out. I like that. That's very good. That's a good one.
And then the last thing I think is just to mention her astrology. Her astrology represents what she was born with, right? And so she has Moon conjunct Neptune in the 12th house, which is the 12th house is the house of mysticism, and Neptune is the planet of mysticism. So she's got Moon conjunct Neptune in the 12th house, which is basically a sign of a mystic, of a person who will be enlightened in this lifetime. And the Moon Neptune, so she's very empathic, she's very psychic, you know, she's super empathic, actually, feeling, you know, the pain and suffering of other people a lot. You know, she doesn't talk about it. She's very humble. She doesn't want to be regarded as special, but, you know, that's been a big part of her life. And she finally got a bioelectric shield, which helps her with her empathy and being subject to energies of others and so on.
Well, when we started, what was the title of this going to
be? Oh yeah, the title was Ananda Devi, the Misunderstood Spiritual Genius.
Yeah, because that struck me as being totally appropriate, because she did strike me as being a spiritual genius because of her unique personality, appearance, you know, which would seem on the surface the kind of antithesis of a person's picture of a, you know, spiritual teacher with the robes and the shaved head, and you know, we talked about that before. But the genius was, she was always, I've never either said anything to her where she wasn't right there with, you know, with the appropriate response, or watching her interact with other people. She's always completely present and goes right to the heart of the matter, which I always loved, because, as I said before, no dancing around, goes to the heart of the matter. And what I get from her more than anything else is her, and this came up earlier, her commitment to finish off, you know, what she started. Like, in other words, with the students, she's going to hang in, and she has to stay up all night, you know, doing inner work or whatever. She's going to finish off. And see, that's something I haven't encountered before. Ever in anybody, like that kind of commitment. It'd be like, okay, enough already, you know, and I'd be like that if I was in that role. Okay, enough. I can't, you know, can't do any more with you. You know, go, you know, go. She says, no, I'm gonna finish the job I started, and that I think is very special. Very special.
Yeah, she's always there. She's right at that edge of, you know, going for it, finishing. Always. She's always there. She doesn't, there's no other place that she lives. That's where she lives. And yeah, I mean, you think about it. So, you know, she's misunderstood, but yet to me, and maybe to you, she actually represents the total package. I mean, you know, what would, you know, okay, we're awakened, we're enlightened, and what? Now we're going to be a monk or a nun and live in a little room? Okay, but what about being, you know, you know, a fully, deeply enlightened person, and being beautiful and or good looking and dressing well and being successful and having personality and being powerful, you know, and I mean, you know, it's like, anyway, she's misunderstood simply because she doesn't fit the stereotypes. She doesn't look like the stereotype. Oh, and then being sexy too on top of it, because almost no spiritual teachers are sexy, male or female.
No.
She is very sexy and sensual. And so she just basically blows all the stereotypes, and she loves to blow stereotypes. She loves to kill sacred cows.
And that's
So I
what
think she actually takes delight in the fact that she doesn't fit the mold.
Yeah.
You know, she's busting the paradigm just by the way she looks and the way she talks with that South African accent,
Yeah.
which I love. I love that South African accent.
Such a unique package. It's such a unique package, and it's a full package. She's got all the bases covered. It's not just this one, you know, bland kind of.
No, it's not like she's just pretty, you know, a non-duality teacher, because there's a couple like Lisa Cairns. I would say she's pretty.
Yes.
Young blonde. You know,
Yeah.
I think she's pretty attractive. Okay. But you know, she doesn't have, but Ananda also has this personality and this personal force and this directness, this Zen master potency. And,
Yeah,
you know,
but
and she's funny and she's full of life and she's entertaining and she's mind blowing, and we could just go on and on. So anyway, I hope that people will start to appreciate and understand her more, and just sort of realize what she's gone through in order to be here for us and help students to awaken. She's given up a lot. She's been through a lot, and she's been rock steady with the whole thing.
Absolutely. I don't know how she does it. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't think I could have done it.
I couldn't.